there you are." Gesturing me to join him, Leonardo seated himself at the long table at the far side of the room. It was apparent that he had been recently at work, for the table service was littered with sheets of paper and a handful of various sized brushes and knives and a pot of glue. In neat contrast was the line of a dozen palm-sized seashells, each smooth half serving as a shallow bowl for a different hue of paint. Another, smaller shell held fine flakes of gold leaves, those pieces so thin that a heated whisper of breath could scatter them. Whatever the master had been painting lay to one side, carefully covered with a cloth to keep the drying colors free of dust. In the center of the table lay a familiar flat bundle. "You will recall the tarocchi cards I found," he said, unwrapping the cloth and spreading the pasteboard pieces in an orderly row. "They belong to the Duke's ward, and so I should gladly return them to her. But as the card appears to have some as yet unknown connection to Blanca's death, I was loath to release them without first making a copy." Observe. He lifted the cloth to reveal a second set of 4 cards. Taking out the original quarter, he swiftly laid them in a row beneath the others. "I believe you found them," Katerina exclaimed in joyful relief, clutching the small bundle of tarocchi cards to her as if it contained the most valuable of jewels. Moments earlier, the master and I had presented ourselves at Katerina's private quarters. As a member of Ludovico's family, she was ensconced in the wing of Castle Sephora, where the noble lived, worked, and slept. I had some small familiarity with this portion of the castle, for I had accompanied Leonardo here weeks earlier while we sought to solve the Conte de Ferrara murder. In years past, the castle had served primarily as a fortress, which history was obvious in the series of dank, ill-lit rooms devoid of bright colors and fanciful carving. El Moro, for all his brutish view of life, had sought to remedy that situation and create a luxurious palace for himself. Thus, the Duke had spent significant funds adding wings and remodeling quarters, including filling every available wall. It seemed with Leonardo's frescoes, while the castle still lacked the breathtaking grandeur of any number of other European palaces, I never failed to be impressed with the sheer physical side of it. Playing my role as page, I had advised Katerina, blonde maidservant, of Leonardo's request for an audience with their mistress. We had been promptly ushered into her private quarter, while I remained several paces back as befitted my assumed station, and the 3 blonde women together in a far corner. Leonardo had stepped forward. With a gallant bow, he had reached into his tunic and presented the young Contessa with the familiar cloth-wrapped packet. It had been that simple action that had brought about her happy cry. Momentarily ignoring our present, Katerina now carefully examined each of the tarocchi cards as if to assure herself she had not imagined their return. Meanwhile, her sleek hound Theo had rushed from the bedchamber, happily barking at the prospect of a visitor.
Whatever the master was about to say was abruptly cut off by a short echo of a woman's scream from a far side of the quadrangle. We exchanged swift glances of surprise before quickly glancing about the original of the frightened cry. It took me but an instant to spot its source. A dozen or more people had gathered a short distance from the main gate. Standing beneath the cylinder tower that anchored from the farthermost corner of the fortress front wall from the garb, most of the spectators appeared to be servants, from gesturing, others merely staring through the spike, mostly like noble of 2 or monk. We were not close enough to see what had held the attention. Still, no, to my mind, the gathering was unsettling, reminiscing of the scenario that we had played out for a few afternoons earlier in the shadows of a different tower. The master apparently stared at my concerns. "Come, Dino," he urged, starting toward the group of a quick pace. At first glance, the middle-aged woman seated on the grass but a few feet from her appeared asleep. Her legs stretched childlike before her so that her feet and her ankles produced from the simple brown gown that she wore over a theater red canvas. She was leaning against the stone of the pedestal at the tower's base, her head drooping and her eyes peacefully closed. A closer look, however, revealed a thin stream of foam dripping down her slack lips, while her skin streamed of foam dripping had taken an unnatural bluish white hue. Horrified, I still continued to stare, for something about this woman seemed compelling, familiar. It was until I noted that her long black, untouched by any of the threads of gray, that I realized who she was. Lydia, I gasped, and was met by the master's confirming nod.
But how can that be? The master protested. When the tragedy has only just occurred? The captain's twisted smile thinned to the faintest of sneers. I thought you'd be the cleverer than that, Florentine. He knows because he's standing before you right now. You see, Lydia happens to be his mother.
Each smooth half serving as a shallow bowl for a different hue of painting. As a member of
from her black lip, while her skin had taken